In this episode of the Andrew Faris podcast, I'm going to tell you about the biggest problem facing your business without knowing you. And I know what it is because I'm facing it in mine and I'm building my business all around trying to solve it so that my service, my product, and my business at AJF Growth can get better all the time. In fact, can get its very best. I'm going to tell you what that problem is, exactly how I'm solving it. I think this will help you. If you are a brand and you have worked with agencies before, you have almost certainly been frustrated by your experience at some point. Many brands in the e-commerce space have gone on what I call the Agency Carousel or merry-go-round or whatever, where you are going from agency to agency to agency and struggling to sort out what is going on and why your agency service is so bad. And that could be in any space. It happens a lot with meta ads agencies, but really it can be in all kinds of different spaces. And if you are an agency, by the way, the same experience is true for software companies. You grab different pieces of software and they just don't do the thing they promise. And so you churn it or you stop using it or whatever it is, and it's frustrating. If you are a software provider or an agency, you have had the same experience with the brands you're working with. You have had brands come on, and plenty of them are good and whatever, clients and partners in the business, but you've had the experience of having them say they're going to do certain things, say they're going to move their business in certain ways forward, but just never seem to get there. And therefore the partnership goes badly and they blame it on you and you blame it on them. And there's just this mix. And I think that there is a fundamental challenge to every kind of business that has become extremely clear to me lately that I am seeing in my business and seeing as the reason that we haven't really tried to grow that much and seeing as the fundamental thing to solve. And I want to break down for you what I think, actually not only businesses, but what basically any organization needs in order to thrive, okay? And I think you can break it down into three different components that I think is at the root of why agency relationships go wrong, business relationships go wrong, why you are not profitable, like why you are struggling on meta ads, why you are hitting growth walls, etc. Okay. And here's what it is. And this is going to be high level, but I think it can help you. Okay. So here's what it is. There are three things you need to make your business work. Okay. Whichever side of the fence you are on. Number one, you need the right ideas. So you need strategy. You need to know that when you're efforting in your business towards something, you're efforting towards the right thing. I think almost everybody underrates this. You can work extremely hard at building the right thing, but if you have the wrong fundamental idea, you can actually be running really fast in the wrong direction. It would be like exactly that, like the fastest runner in the world, somebody who is trained incredibly well to be a great runner, going into a race and running away from the finish line, right? Imagine somebody running a 100-meter sprint, okay? Just like something like that. And they're the fastest runner in the world, but they just don't run a straight line. If they do that, they're going to lose the race, even if they're Usain Bolt. And so there's something that is core here where you have to have the right ideas and strategies. In AJF Growth, as a meta ads performance agency that does financial forecasting, media buying, and creative as the core of our service, okay? That means, just to put some legs on this, okay, we need to have the right cohort forecasting method. In fact, we need to have the right financial models for our brands to succeed. Like we need to know that they're building a business that makes sense in order to accomplish their goals. Like what I mean is if the goal is to exit in 3 years, we need to be able to build a model that gets them the maximal money for their exit and that actually accomplishes that, right? It's not good enough to just build a model. The model has to actually produce the outcomes, has to be organized around the outcome that the business is trying to pursue. For creative, we don't just need to produce a lot of creative and produce that creative efficiently. We need to produce good creative that actually sells, or good offers, right? Or whatever. In fact, we need to know that we're efforting the right kind of thing in the first place. Maybe our whole business ought to be organized around, meta ads with some creative, but really it would be better if we put more of our effort into CRO and offers or something like that. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying if that was a better use of our time to more fully move the needle strategically for our clients, then that's what we should be building processes to support. Okay. So it's not just good enough to be efficient and to have good process. You actually have to have the right ideas. And when I talked to Olivia Corey on this podcast a while ago, we had this conversation where she had listened to one of my podcasts, Olivia from House Analytics, right? She'd had this podcast or she had listened to a podcast of mine where I said, like, this is why I think trust the experts is actually really good advice. But of course, she also articulated what the exact problem with trust the experts is. It's that it's hard to know who an expert is. It's hard to validate that. It's why I look for, in the thinkers that I admire, clarity to the principles guiding their thinking. Some people call that dogmatism. I call that clarity. Okay. That's why I look for, and why I tend to articulate strongly stated ideas, because strongly stated, clearly stated ideas are ideas that you can argue with. They're disprovable. And if the idea is not disprovable, it's a problem, because I want to go and look and say, how can I actually evaluate a strategy? It's really hard to know truth and to discern truth in the world. And so finding ways to articulate and then evaluate that truth is critical to me. It's what I'm really drawn to. It's what I try to do on this show all the time, is to try to do those things. And so, yeah, but it's really important. And so much of what's happening in your business right now might be a problem of simply being honed in on the wrong ideas. So you could be efforting really hard. I mean, maybe the classic example of this is like brands that raised a bunch of debt at some point in order to grow their business. They had this idea in mind where they could speed up their growth by grabbing a bunch of debt, and then as they grab that debt, they could use that debt to fund the growth, right? Okay, well, that's fine, except that if it's bad debt, and even if the debt is efficiently applied to your business, it's actually sending you running the wrong way for most brands. Okay, it's like a really bad way to use your money. And in most cases, not always. Sometimes those loans make sense, but articulating that and understanding that why is really important. So as best as you can to know strategically what the right ideas are in your business. Okay. Number two, then something I've alluded to a few times already in this conversation, it's the right processes. So it's not actually just good enough to have the right idea. To use my running analogy, right? You don't just need to make it. You don't need to just know where the 100-meter race goes. You don't need to understand where the finish line is. You actually need to be able to train and to run the race to do that, right? You need to be able to execute on the plan of doing the things that you want. And this is another place where things go extremely wrong. So Patrick Cadu, the person who's come into my business and is going to function as something like a COO, or, we haven't even articulated the final title, but I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But if you listen to my interview with Patrick, my conversation with him recently, where we're talking about sort of him coming into my business, what we're doing, so much of his role is around doing this. And just this week, he sent an email internally to my team saying, okay, we had a conversation with a client where something went wrong, and here's one of the problems. We told the client on the call we would do X, and then we did not deliver X. And the problem was not our intentions. The problem was not that X was a bad idea. The problem was at the level of process and organization, we did not follow through. And we did not actually execute those ideas well. And certainly this was my fault, right? I probably either overpromised or didn't follow through on the management level to do the things we needed to do. And this is where things go wrong so much of the time. So many of your agency relationships that have gone bad, if you are on the brand side, is this. Is that you get on a sales call with somebody who tells you, here's what our agency believes and here's what we can do, okay? And it's a CEO or a founder or whatever it is. And they say, yes, this is what our agency believes. Here's the way to buy media. Here's the way to generate creative, et cetera. And that's what we're going to do for you. And then you get into the actual relationship. And of course, they deliver a service that is very different from that, or delivered in bits and pieces. That's not because they're mean or bad or lying to you or chasing money or whatever. It's because it's really hard to bring people into an organization and drip good strategy through that organization and get other people to replicate that idea. But that's the gap. The gap is not and at that point, it's maybe not an idea problem. It's a gap. That's why some organizations really, really struggle to deliver things, because it's really, really hard to do. It's hard to do very well, but that's the crucial thing. That's actually happening even on the brand side as well. Many brand operators are listening to lots of podcasts like mine, okay? And they're hearing a million ideas all the time, and they go chase them all down, and they bring up the idea in a meeting, and and I'm certainly prone to this, and they have no ability to organizationally follow through on the idea. And so it's just really hard to do that, because also, by the way, like, there's competing priorities and limited time. And so you not only have to not only have to follow through on the idea, you have to actually have to move around priorities to follow through on the idea. And you have to be able to rearrange things and project management and all that kind of stuff. And so that's the fundamental challenge of so many of the businesses that I see is that they actually do have good ideas. I see both of these problems actually. People have bad ideas, and so they go really hard after the wrong idea. They're going in the wrong direction. Sometimes they have good ideas that they're not going the right. They're not able to actually execute on. Okay. There's a third thing, and that's the right people. The right people is a really big problem and a really big challenge. And I'm going to actually spend a little less time on this one, but I just wanted to state it because I think it's clear. Great people can cover over a lot of the problems in the first two things that I said. Great people have good ideas or just work really hard to generate great to accomplish the things they want, sometimes by brute force. This is certainly why AJF Growth has stayed small so far, because we've just said, like, we're just going to kind of have great people. I'm a bad process builder, so we're going to have great people who in meetings talk about ideas and who figure it out and sort of brute force our way into getting those things done and delivering a high quality service for our clients. But we're just not going to think that we are going to have the smoothest, greatest processes in the world. And I've even been clear about this with clients at times. Like, we're just going to cover over that. Now, that's not going to be scalable. It's not going to work. The more people you add, the harder it is to cover over process problems with like another meeting or something like that. Okay, and just a comment in a Zoom call. But that's the thing. Okay, so those are the three things. Okay, the right ideas, the right processes, the right people. If you give the right people a great system where they can execute the right ideas. Okay, which is to say, you give the third thing, the top two things. That's how you have an organization that's humming. If you are an e-commerce brand and you have a customer service software or help desk software that is not RICHPANEL, what are you even doing? If you're on one of the legacy pieces of software, very simply, there's a reason right away you should be considering going to RICHPANEL, and that is that they guarantee at least 30% off if you switch from Gorgeous or Zendesk to RICHPANEL. So right away, that just means you should take the call if you are trying to reduce OpEx, reduce software costs in your business. But it's not just cheaper, it's really awesome. RICHPANEL was built from the ground up with AI. It is AI first software. It is not AI layered onto legacy software. It was built AI first. And if there's any part of your business that can benefit from leveraging AI to make the experience for your customers and your team better, it is very obviously customer service. They allow you to work very quickly to reduce ticket load from your customers with an incredible self-help center that sort of jumps right over on top of your website, layers right on top of your website. They see on average a 30% ticket reduction from customers when customers switch from other pieces of software to them. So that means customers are finding answers to their questions faster, which allows them to check out faster. It's just really well executed customer help desk software while also being meaningfully more affordable than the main options in space. You should go right now to richpanel.com/AJF, richpanel.com/AJF, or just follow the link in the show notes in the description of this episode to go check it out for yourself. It is great software. Multiple of my clients are using it. You will like it too. It's what I plan to use when I launch my brand because it's really great. richpanel.com/AJF. Go check it out today. And the best organizations do those things extremely well. They apply their resources towards that outcome. And I've thought a lot recently about Common Thread Collective and their experience because they have announced recently, right, that they have partnered with a private equity group, which is another way to say that they have they've been acquired, right? And you know, they're not ending or anything like that. They're thinking about how they're going to grow and go into the future. And I've been really close to that organization and watched it take a lot of different shapes over a lot of times. And one of the things I've watched happen really clearly is these three things happen all together. I think actually ideas was never really the problem there. Taylor Holiday, at the lead in that organization, has always been extremely smart and as the intellectual capital on the collective D2C balance sheet, as I like to say, like as there's been more knowledge over more time for people, that you know, Taylor's been at the forefront of that and has been able to articulate that and do those things. So the ideas, I think, have been good for a very long time in a lot of ways, but it was really challenging to watch them build processes. That's why they scaled to, you know, over 100 people or whatever, and then came way back down before hitting a new period in the history where they were able to deliver their process better. And what I watched happen there was Taylor take the ideas that he had, the very best ideas, and get deadly serious about executing those ideas at scale via great process, building their own software tools, you know, building incredibly detailed Google Sheets, et cetera, in order to deliver those over and over again and to hand that to the right people. And that's the other thing that happened is that Taylor has always attracted high quality talent to him, but he seems to have been able to in the last bunch of years, especially as there've been more talent and more growth in the D2C space, been able to attract even better people all the time and give them those tools. And that's made the organization thrive. And you see it in the outcome that they just achieved. So just watch that happen. That's an agency outcome. And I know for a fact that Taylor's built a system to build and grow his agency profitably. That has been part of that. It's just drilling down into ideas, processes, and people over and over and over again. And as I've watched that happen, it's made me realize that's what my organization has to do, whether I'm talking about AJF Growth or the brand I'm going to start on the side or whatever. And that's what your organization has to do as well. Efforting towards the right ideas, the right strategies with the right processes. Okay. So here's how I am trying to solve that at AJF Growth. Okay. I'm trying and what I'm really wanting you to do with this episode is to take a moment and think about which one of those three or which multiple of those three, maybe even all three of them, is your problem. Do you have the wrong ideas? Do you have bad process, or do you have bad people? All of them are possible. In fact, certainly in some way, all of them are happening. But where is that happening? Are you sure you're efforting towards the right thing? Are you sure that your efforts towards those things are good? Okay. Are you sure that the people on your team are motivated and compensated and incentivized and all those things to do the right thing? Are they high integrity people? All that. Okay. Here's the ways that I am trying to solve this in my organization. If you have honed in on that, okay, I think we're trying to effort all of them. Okay. So number one, above all, and this has been a light bulb moment for me, and I want desperately to pass it on to you, was bringing Patrick Cadieux into the organization as within the Visionary Integrator EOS framework. So Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, a lot of people use that as a way of solving number two here, like the process problem, okay? Organizing people's behaviors and rhythms around the ideas that they have and actually trying to move people to the right direction. EOS is great. You can go read Traction. I actually haven't read it. I've just watched businesses use EOS. But you can go read Traction and sort of learn about how this is working in businesses. I just read Rocket Fuel. And if you hear what I am saying right now and it resonates with you and you are thinking about your role in the business and that you are in, you may want to read Rocket Fuel. If you're a CEO or COO in your business, you may want to read that book. It was really eye-opening for me, very easy read. Thanks to Patrick for recommending it. I'm not a big business book reader, but this was very helpful to me very fast. And the basic principle here, right, is that there's a visionary and an integrator at the top of most organizations. Very rarely there's somebody who is both, okay? It exists, but it's rare. And the visionary tends to be the sort of out and up person, the person who's looking down for where is this organization going to go next? How are we going to get there? Really focusing their opinions on some of the idea phase of things, but is operationally weak, process-oriented weak. I am probably this person, okay? And then there's an integrator type who's really operationally strong and who can help not only shape those ideas, certainly, and speak into them, but also can help actually with the process and execution of the ideas. That's not a crazy, wild thought. But the thing that freed me so much as a leader in this business was just sort of relieving myself of the burden of trying to be both if we were going to try to grow. Within a week of seeing Patrick join my organization, and I mean that within a week, I've just been amazed at how much he is able to operationally accomplish because he is so much better at it than me. And instead of me trying to be that or pretend I am that or whatever it is, that stuff just building good process and operations is just extremely difficult for me. And I need to speak into them strategically and all that, of course. But it's just not really my skill set. And there's this part of me that feels guilty about that, almost like I'm passing off work that I should be doing or something. But instead, what if instead of feeling guilty about it, I say no, that's a weakness of mine. I'm going to find somebody with a strength of mine who's aligned with me at the vision of the organization and, culture and all those things and do that. And amazingly, that's so far what it has looked like with Patrick. Who knows how it'll play out? Patrick and I both recognize that this could go all kinds of directions. And we've talked about the challenges that we will inevitably face, of course, including relationally and all that stuff. That's the normal part of doing things together. But that has been so helpful. If you're driving serious amounts of traffic, spending serious amounts of money on ads in your business, you should be thinking about doing that with help from FERMAT. FERMAT builds the best, highest quality funnels, landing pages that you can possibly find for any tool that I know of in the e-com space. They do an incredible job building this unbelievably robust tool that is really fast and really easy to use so that you as a performance marketer can build the kind of really tight funnels you want to very, very quickly with all kinds of help from them, with baseline templates and AI tools to help you deliver those things really fast. The real value of FERMAT is this. If you're messaging some highly specific angle for your ad, don't just send that traffic to a generalized landing page. Send it to a landing page that actually has an offer and content and that sort of thing that allows you to message that angle all the way through the funnel, right? So you actually consistently message all the way through your funnel and then build offers specific to that funnel without ever touching the website. So you can build highly specific bundles, upsells, in-cart upsells, specific PDP carousels. You all know, if you've looked at any heat map ever of how people are interacting with your PDP, that's what customers look at all the time. So you can build specific carousels really fast and easy, test those for your funnels. That's what FERMAT allows you to do. It allows you to do it at the best speed and with the most freedom possible, while also being insanely fast loading and a great experience for customers. They're also a great team who really helps you succeed, helps you thrive. They're there for you when you're struggling with different things and can help give you some strategic direction, some direction on actually building and using their tool. They're really, really great. Go to fermatcommerce.com/AF to get started with FERMAT today. fermatcommerce.com/AF. It just has allowed me to think that way. I want to really commend this idea to you if you're at the top of an organization, you're finding yourself struggling to find that forward movement. Who is the integrator and who is the visionary in an organization? A lot of times the visionary is, CEO and the integrator is COO. And maybe that's the terminology you want to use, but it's just really critical. The one who can do it all, like I said, is so rare, and it really has felt so freeing immediately. And I just can't wait to see how this plays out for the next 3 to 6 months as we actually carry out this process a little bit more. Okay. So that's number one. At doing this, trying to solve this at the organizational level with who the people are and what their jobs are. Okay. And for me, well, I'll talk more about that in a second. Okay. So that means number two, a big thing that we are trying to do is actually build much better and more ongoing process. And that sounds in some ways too broad, but what I want to say about this is that it means getting incredibly specific about the things that you believe and then building tools, software, AI stuff to actually help you carry those things out. And an example of this, what I mean is like I watched CTC do this really well. Like I said, like at CTC, I know that Taylor had built a tool. If they forecast in their forecast, if they say we want to give you a forecast and then execute that forecast. Okay. If we want to do that, then you need a forecast for, let's say it's $1 million in ad spend 1 month. Okay. To spend $1 million in a month, okay, on meta ads, you need to spend that at the level of X number of campaigns. Okay, so how many campaigns and how much is each of those campaigns going to spend per day? Well, you can actually forecast down to the campaign level to figure that out. And then you can track that day over day and see how you're pacing towards your goal. Hey, by the way, if you have any thoughts about what I am saying in this video, leave a comment, would you? And like and subscribe to the channel. Really helps me to grow it. And also, I love to interact with you in the comments. I'd love to answer them. I try to answer as many comments as I possibly can. Thanks. Basically, what I'm saying is you push deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the thing that you are trying to do, and you build more and more clarity and more measurement so that you can understand that as well as possible, all aligned towards the right business outcomes. And that way of thinking about process is something that's extremely difficult for me, but it's something I want to see, and we're making a bet of doing much better. Patrick and I, the bet we're making at AJF Growth is that we can do this at the level of creative first, and it will have the biggest impact. Okay. Patrick talks about from his days running an e-commerce business at Supply. He said, like, I could have dealt with a lot of stuff from my agency if they were consistently producing high volume, high quality, highly diverse creative. If they were giving me that, okay, then I could deal with a lot of other things. And I think that is right. And so then my job as a visionary or whatever becomes, okay, how do I go and find the best things in creative? There's a lot of talk right now about whitelisting creators. Okay, well, if that's what we need to do, how do I go and figure out, do we help brands go get whitelisting creator relationships? Do we have the brands do it? Do we give them a playbook? Do we charge them and do it for them? Like, what's the answer? Okay, so I got to help think about that. And then Patrick will help build a process for us to do that. Okay, how much do we charge for that service? How much should a brand spend in that service? And then how do we create the relationship? What are the snacks? Like, what are the contracts going to look like? And how much should you, and how do you make sure that money gets transferred? And how do you get whitelisting access, which ends up being this huge pain? And you see what I'm saying? There's all of these things. How does a strategist on our account know when to use that in the business's life cycle? And is there something that's triggering that for them? Do we have a library of ad formats that we are trying to produce, right? That would be another way of looking at this. If we think X ad format works really well, let's just make one up. Let's just say the Post-it note ad, okay? Let's just say we were all in on Post-it note ads, okay? We do some text and context ads like we talked about. We're not all in on Post-it note ads, but let's just say we were, okay? Or maybe let's take the long form explainer, because I've talked about that a lot, okay? The long form explainer, I still believe, is one of the most valuable assets you can make for ads. Okay, so how do you make a long form explainer? What are the different sections of a long form explainer? Are we writing things to do that? And how many of them should we make? And how long should it take? And you see what I'm saying, right? There's a lot of these questions that goes from the right idea, make the long form explainer, to the right process. And it's not easy. You have to drill in. And ideally, you want to push all of your efforts towards the things that generate the highest value to you as you define value, right? Which is probably enterprise value in your business, okay? So for example, at the agency level, if we are trying to build X dollars on the bottom line as the way we are being valued, let's say we want to get our EBITDA to $1 million a year, whatever, okay? I'm just making that up. Let's say we wanted to get there, then you work backwards and say, well, if our creative service is going to generate the most value for our clients and our clients are at X margin, okay, then I need to do these long form explainers, because that's the bet I'm making that's going to generate value for the client. It's going to keep the client paying us, and that's going to get us towards that $1 million per year EBITDA number. Okay, you get the idea, right? If that's the thing, if that's where the effort should go, that's where the effort should go, and we should go do it. This is what an agency does, and like I said, this is why so many agency experiences are so bad. And I just caution you, if you are on the brand side in particular. And for that matter, on the agency side, I watched this sales pitch goes in both directions. I've had brands who said to me, like, this is what we are going to do. We are going to pay you X amount. And they've come from 4 and 5 agency relationships. And at some point you say, maybe the brand is the problem, not the agency. Okay. And so they actually can't deliver on the promise of being a good partner. All right. Or the brand, very commonly a brand will come to an agency and say, this is what we want you to do for us. The agency says this is what we can do for us, and then they can't actually do it. And that's where the break is so much of the time. Lots of people who are running agencies are smart and have good ideas. And even where I disagree with them, they're still generally trying to move the right direction, right? And they can do those things. It's just really hard to deliver the service at scale. And so that's the thing you have to test for in that relationship. And I would also just recommend going towards EOS here. I'm almost certain we're going to do that at AJF Growth. But having an actual system, this is another thing I've heard Maytab Bogle talk a lot about recently. And I've been really helped by just his book recommendations and things like that. Just 5 or 6 clear business books where it's like, just build the system. Maytab talks about like traction. He puts that into his companies that he's working with. So they just are implementing EOS as the management system. So you have a real like organizational operating system to move you forward. A compensation structure, and that makes sense. A hiring plan and a hiring process that makes sense. A supply chain negotiation process that makes sense. He's got all of these things really clearly articulated, including some books to do that. Go follow Maytab on X and learn from him about how to do those things. I've been really helped by some of those comments from him. But having those systems in place is great, and most of them are solved problems, okay? The way to organize your weekly meetings as a team is a solved problem. The way to organize your leadership meetings and your accountability as a team is a solved problem. Just go learn it and do it, okay? That's what we're going to go towards. And again, this is what I see really good businesses do. I'll just use CTC as an example again. I've watched them build an agency management system using the best inputs from the best sources to make it so that everything they're doing is actually a giant repeatable process, from sales call all the way through delivering the service, all the way through retention, et cetera. That's the goal that AJF Growth is trying to get to, how to do this well. Okay. So number 1, visionary integrator, EOS. Number 2, ongoing process generation. Number 3, ongoing idea generation. So it's not just process problems, it's idea problems. I've been asking myself this question recently. What are the most likely ideas I have wrong? Maybe my creative testing strategy is wrong and I just need to go revisit it. Some smart people say that, who are spending a lot of money on meta ads. Well, I need to interrogate that a little bit more. Maybe maybe the kinds of creative we make could be better. I don't think they're wrong per se, but maybe it could be better. Maybe I'm wrong about how to generally think about growth stages in a business and forecasting a business, right? Maybe I should be pushing harder for brands to grow faster and less profitably in the earlier stages of their business until they get to 20 or 30 million bucks. And I'm too profit focused in the early stage. I don't know. There's just how do I make our media buying and better, et cetera? Those are the kind of key questions for me, right? If AJF Growth delivers forecasting, creative and media buying, then how do I make sure I'm on the right ideas of do this? I just did this recently where I had a forecasting mistake for a brand of mine that highlighted for me that I had a wrong idea about how to do a forecast. It actually wasn't a process problem. I was thinking about how to forecast old cohorts in a way that was incomplete, I would say. Not so much wrong, it's just incomplete. And making this mistake highlighted that for me and has really helped me forecast better and more appropriately. Okay. So because of that, now I've solved that problem. And now I have to create a process to make sure that other people in my organization who are going to be forecasting can do the same thing. But the idea was the first problem to solve. How about like the use of AI? Like understanding the best places and uses of AI in a business is like a critical strategic question right now for brands. Well, how do we think about that? Okay. And just being able to answer that question all the time. So ongoing idea generation is a critical part of this. And it means just like paying attention and giving some amount of my time all the time towards interacting with the best sources that I can possibly find. And then bringing those to Patrick in conversations and saying, how do we work together to prioritize these and build the right things in the organization so that the tools and the people and the processes that we are building and working with are delivering the right idea the most. And this is a hard thing to do. Again, finding truth is hard sometimes, but as best as you can to work through those concepts as clearly as possible. So that's number 3. And actually, this is another place where bringing on an integrator is really exciting to me because it's going to free my time to spend more of it thinking through how do we make sure that we have better ideas, not just better strategy, not just good enough ideas, but like better. How do we make it better? I've thought about this with offers a lot. Like it's not really my strong suit. Like, why don't I go and just download all the information I can from people like Russell Brunson and Alex Hormozy, who've just done this at massive scale, and use AI to help me, get the best of their information and say like, okay, here's our framework for offers that make sense for our brands. I can't articulate that clearly enough right now. And that's part of my job. Okay. That's a weakness for me right now. So how do I go and solve that weakness at the level of ideas and then work with Patrick to figure out how to do the process? Again, this applies to any organization in any way. If you're a brand, this might be happening at the supply chain level. You might have the wrong idea about what's possible for you in negotiating the supply chain. If you go listen to my episode with Roman Kahn, you'll hear him talk about a strategy for negotiating supply chains that he has built, which is to get a bill of materials from his supplier and then to start interrogating that bill of materials, BOM, B-O-M, to get that BOM and to start interrogating it line by line and thinking through that. That is actually a strategy and idea that will be followed by the process of doing the interrogation, okay? But it starts with that idea, knowing what the supplier has, how their business works, understanding strategically what is important there, understanding whether or not it's worth your time to even go do that, and then pursuing that there. Knowing what those ideas are is really important, and staying close to that knowledge is really important. Okay. Lastly, number 4, building AI into this. I saw both Triple Whale, AJ from Triple Whale, I think it was, maybe it was Max, and Taylor interacting recently on X about sort of the overlap of their opinion, which is that software companies are becoming agencies, like they're building services to deliver the software, and agencies are becoming software companies. They're building software to deliver their services. And that's the future, is more sort of AI integrated, software integrated stuff. As software development becomes more accessible with AI, as tools become easier to build with AI, that's where things are going. Okay. And I think that's the most obvious place where AI is helpful in this process. And the way that I'm fundamentally thinking about AI, okay, is I'm thinking about it in terms of how do I use AI to deliver the services that we believe in the most effectively, okay? Now, I'm also think AI can help us surface the best ideas. So it can help with the process generation and the idea generation, okay? But I also think that when you get this right, okay, when you have AI tools doing this, what AI creates is leverage. I'm actually starting to wonder, and I'm going to do another episode about this with Alex Cooper very soon. So if you like this episode, like just make sure you subscribe, because Alex and I are going to talk about this soon. It's going to be really helpful. He's really, really good on this stuff. AI might actually help organizations in the aggregate hire more people, not less people, because if AI fundamentally creates additional leverage, it makes every person more valuable in your business, not less valuable. Like what it might do is make it so that you are trying to build a big organization can go from $1 million in revenue per head to $1.5 million in revenue per head that you hire. That's an incentive to hire, not to fire, right? It's an incentive to add more heads if you can make each head worth more money. Okay. So maybe, I mean, we'll see. I could easily see it going the other way. I'm not going to state a very strong opinion here, but I could imagine that happening, because what I've watched happen so far is that when talented people get really good tools, they do better work faster. And that means that it's really good. And so then the goal is like, figure out how to get talented people in the organization, right? And then give them those tools. But at the same time, the fundamental problem with AI, as far as I can see, is the errors. AI makes mistakes. AI can give you, and it makes us mistakes with a lot of confidence. It reminds me a little bit of like attribution software in this way, where attribution software will tell you extremely confidently what's happening in your business and how people are finding it, except that it can be wrong, or it can be like confused and tell you the sort of wrong direction in your MMM or your MTA, especially your MTA, whatever, right? So then you have this problem of like having the wrong strategy and building and having better process to deliver you the wrong strategy. I've seen this happen a lot of times where like brands go running after the wrong thing really hard and really fast and really efficiently. That's a big problem in your business if that happens. And so AI, I think, has this same fundamental problem, which is that it will deliver you this beautiful report stated with confidence and clarity about the thing you should do, and then it will be wrong. It will just be wrong. Like, and it can design you the landing page that converts extremely poorly, and it will design it with a lot of confidence and speed. Okay, finding ways to use AI to source truth and then to deliver as best as possible the actual best ideas is important. I'm not saying it can never help you with good ideas. Of course, it can help you surface great ideas. It can help you a lot surface great ideas. Again, it can make some sort of laborious work happen faster and easier, for sure. But that to me is the fundamental problem. It's the same problem as the creative problem with AI, right? Where AI will deliver slop, or it takes so long sometimes to get AI to give you really, really good creative that actually you would have just gone faster and cheaper just having a human do it, okay? Because you had to do so many edits or whatever it is. So to me, look, I'm pro AI. We're like finding ways to use it all the time. I don't want to sound too negative here. In fact, what I'm saying in part is that we want to use AI in our system. And this is so far at AJF Growth that the number one use of AI that we have found is to be a co-writer, taking our creative strategy and our sort of scripting ideas and helping us to create scripts as variations of our winning ads as good as possible. Like, there's a very common problem. This is actually a good illustration of what I'm talking about. Okay. There's a very common problem where a brand has a winning ad in an ad account. And then they say, okay, this ad is winning. Let's go make more ads like that. Okay. And so they start doing that. Okay. Or they want to do that. But then the ball gets dropped and you make one or two and it doesn't work very well and it takes forever. And then new ads are winning or whatever it is. And so you have bad process for doing this thing that everybody knows you should do, which is that when you have a message that resonates, you should make more ads that articulate that same message. Okay. And perhaps that same style. So what we have built, Patrick really has built, is this AI co-writer that takes some of the ideas that I have about creative, visionary part of the work, okay, and about what kind of formats work and some of those things, stuff I've researched and seen elsewhere and seen working for other people, and then allows us to take a winning ad and plug that winning ad into an AI co-writer that then spits out scripts that take that same winning ad and redelivers the same message in different formats. And then a creative strategist can work through those and prioritize what they think the best options are, what's going to work best, et cetera. Okay. And over time, I'm sure there's other ways that it can do that much better, but it delivers those scripts really well. It's really good at it. And what that is there's the right idea, the right strategy. Okay. And then AI to make the process better. And now we're digging into the process more to make sure it gets used by people in the right ways. Okay. Make sure if there's any challenges in the way that it's getting used, that we solve those challenges. Okay. There's that. And then we have the right people doing those things. And there's all three of them all in a row. And our goal at AJF Growth is to keep doing that over and over again with everything we do. Have the right idea, build the right process, often using AI to support that, okay? And then deliver that with the best people that we can possibly find. I think if you build your organization with clearly attempting to do those things and just knowing where you are weak as best as you can, or at least trying to interrogate where you're weak and maybe bring people into your organization, asking them, where do you think we are weak, okay? and ask them that question. Then you do what needs to be done to figure out, is it one of those three things: ideas, processes, people. Okay. And then you go and find that, then effort those things. That's, I think, the pathway to building a really good, really high quality, really profitable business. Thanks so much for watching or listening. Soon on the show, I have Alex Cooper coming, like I said. That's going to be a great conversation. I have a monster conversation coming with Taylor Holiday about the sale of CTC. You're going to love that episode. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. It's going to be really good. I'm going to do that in person. It's going to be shot beautifully. It's going to be awesome. And then I've also got an episode coming that I'm really excited about with one of the founders of Pura Vida, who built their wholesale program, and is going to talk about how e-com D2C brands can build wholesale programs from the ground up. Really unique experience and background. I've spent some time with him. His name's Jordan Mayer. Great dude with really good insight. He's doing it for one of my clients right now. He's going to talk about how to do it for you. So don't miss those episodes. Thanks so much, as always, to my sponsors on this show. That's FERMAT and RICHPANEL. You can get the links for both of those in the show notes to this episode. Go check them out. They're great. You can also reach out to me if you want to work with me as we are building all these things. Go to ajfgrowth.com, fill in the intake form. We'd love to hear from you there. And you should also email me, podcast@ajfgrowth.com. If you just want to reach out to me directly, that's fine. Thanks so much for watching or for listening. I appreciate it a ton. I'll talk to you next time.